Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. Wekiva High School welcomes you to Mustang Field, where it is a beautiful, albeit blustery day for baseball. Please welcome our guests from West Orange High School. They are the Warriors. And they'll be taking on your Wekiva High School Mustangs. Let's meet the teams. We'll begin with our guests from West Orange, and we'll start with their leadoff hitter, first baseman, number 8, Jacob Delano. Second in the lineup for West Orange, shortstop, number 3, Titan Kamaka. Third in the lineup for West Orange, designated hitter, number 2, Ricky Reef. And starting for him in the field on the pitcher's mound, number 27, Evan King. Fourth in the lineup for the Warriors, second baseman, number 7, Max Mccluskey. In the 5-hole, right fielder, number 14, TJ Nikhazy. Sixth in the lineup for West Orange, and behind the plate at the bottom of each inning, number 28, Nick DeGeorge. In the 7-hole, third baseman, number 1, Justin Frias. Batting 8th for the Warriors, center fielder, number 5, Mike DeGeorge. And finally for West Orange, batting 9th, left fielder, number 26, A.J. Cohen. And the Warriors are managed by head coach Jay Welsh. And now, let's meet the lineup for your Wekiva High School Mustangs. The leadoff hitter for Wekiva, center fielder, number 1, C.J. Goodwin. Second in the lineup for the Mustangs, designated hitter, number 21, Christian Vasquez. And fielding for him to start today's game on the pitcher's mound, number 18, Adrian Banana. Third in the lineup for the Mustangs, shortstop, number 16, Malachi Hepburn. Cleanup hitter for Wekiva in the 4-hole is left fielder, number 15, Jackson Zapata. Batting 5th for the Mustangs, second baseman, number 12, Connor Ross. Sixth in the lineup for Wekiva, first baseman, number 23, Tamir Simon. Seventh up for the Mustangs, and behind the plate at the top of each inning, number 2, Josiah McCoy. Batting 8th is third baseman, number 8, Janel Sanchez. And finally for Wekiva, batting 9th is right fielder, number 14, Greg Jones. The Mustangs are managed by Coach Mike Scanero. And now, ladies and gentlemen, we ask that you please stand as we honor America with the playing of our national anthem. Ladies and gentlemen, we want to let you know, for those of you here in the ballpark, if you have friends and family who are not able to join us in person today, no fear, they can tune in live on YouTube or the NFHS network. On YouTube, you simply have to search for the channel name Wekiva Sports. Again, it's at Wekiva Sports on YouTube. Or if you are a member of the NFHS network, you can also tune in there. We simulcast the same stream to both services. Just pull up the YouTube app on your favorite computer, smart TV, or mobile device and search for Wekiva Sports. For those of you who are already tuned in and watching us online, we hope that you will subscribe while you're here. And once again, we want to welcome you to the broadcast. My name is Mark Bargy, voice of the Mustangs. and Sports Information Director here at Wekiva High School. I'll be taking you through this afternoon's game. As we enter the top of the first inning, the leadoff hitter for the Warriors, first baseman, number 8, Jacob Delano. And we'll start things off with a called strike to bring up an 0-1 count. Second pitch is, and that'll bring up an 0-2 count, just a foul of the first baseline. A very blustery day here at Mustang Field. We have no rain in the forecast, but certainly overcast skies and the wind coming in real hard from behind, which should help. And Adrian Bandana records his first strikeout of the day as Delano is caught looking. One away for the Warriors. Next to the plate for West Orange, shortstop, number 3, Titan Kamaka. And another called strike. Bandana having a great first couple of at-bats. And now we got a ball. I promise we do have windscreens on the headset microphone, but it just cannot compete today. That one's going out of play. That goes straight to Bandana, has an opportunity to recover, and he does. Bandana makes the throw to first base with Demir Simon. That puts 2 away for the Warriors. Next to the plate for West Orange, designated hitter, number 2, Ricky Reef. First pitch away, he's going to swing at that one, and it's going deep. Headed toward left field, and the play is there. Fly catch is made in left field, and that does to the middle of the first inning. In that half inning, no runs, no hits, no errors, and none left on base. As the Warriors go 3 up and 3 down, and we remain scoreless at the end of half an inning. We'll be right back. Welcome back to Mustang. As we enter the bottom of the first inning, once again the leadoff hitter for the Mustangs, center fielder, number 1, C.J. Goodwin. Again, welcome back to Mustang Field. My name is Mark Barchi, the voice of the Mustangs and sports information director here at Wekiva High School on a windy day here at the ballpark and overcast. But again, we are forecast to remain dry. We'll see if that remains true. Second pitch is away, and it's another ball. And showing a 17-mile-an-hour wind with 22-mile-an-hour gusts right now. 3 balls to open up as that one is just a little bit low and outside. Low and first pitch to the plate turns out to be a ball. End of the first inning. The Mustangs score no runs on no hits with no Warrior errors, leaving 1 on base. Attempted pick at first, and so able to hear my voice in any way, please know that we are working on it. Unassisted out is Mace at the plate for West Orange. Let's see, we have a little breakdown on our scoreboard connection, which is not updating. Let's see if we can solve that. Fly catch is made in center field by C.J. Goodwin, and that will take us to the middle of the second inning. In that half inning, no runs scored on no hits with no Mustang errors, leaving 1 on base, and the score remains 0-0 at the end of. All right, it looks like we are fully back online now. See, yes, red is good. Counterintuitively on our broadcasting software, a yellow indicator is bad and a red indicator is good. That means we have strong signal. What it looks like happened was that there was a glitch with the Orange County Wi-Fi, and so the broadcasting rig actually jumped over to my cell phone's hotspot and was using that, and I didn't even realize it. And so it's no wonder that it wasn't getting great upload service, because we're trying to simulcast to 2 destinations over a 4G network. Fly catch is made at second base by Mccleskey. 1 away for the Mustangs. Next at the plate for Wekiva, catcher number 2, Josiah McCoy. So thanks for your patience while we dealt with that little glitch and that little hiccup. First pitch is inside. In fact, it's real inside, and McCoy gets hit. McCoy advances to first base. Next at the plate for Wekiva, third baseman, number 8, Janel Sanchez. So noteworthy for West Orange is that they are already on their second pitcher here in the second inning. Starting pitcher was Evan King, and now we are on to Nolan Maroth, if the jersey numbers are to be believed. which we have no reason not to. That one is nearly in the dirt. So that'll come up for ball one. Second pitch almost gets away from DeGeorge. Brings up a 20 count. Swing and a miss from Sanchez will bring up 2-1. So now that we have our internet connection stabilized and we're back to a full quality stream, since Neil Fisher was not able to join us today, I have for you the very next best thing. One of our broadcast production students, who is sometimes a videographer for us, sometimes a broadcast director, and I understand an absolute expert in all things baseball. Bailey, welcome to the broadcast. Oops, let me turn your mic on here. There we go.
Hey, guys.
So, Bailey, tell us a little bit more about what you do in Wekiva broadcast production.
I film games, do the announcements, help as much as I can. Yeah.
And you also are involved in Wekiva athletics in capacities other than broadcast production, right?
Yes.
And we get ball 4 here in the dirt, and not only is it going to walk the batter, it's also going to be a wild pitch and advance all of the runners, and so it really wouldn't have mattered because they would have been forced there anyway. Sanchez walks to first. And we'll pause for a timeout before we get to the next batter, which is right fielder, number 14, Greg Jones. So we now have loaded bases for Wekiva, and things are looking pretty good as West Orange continues to struggle with pitching issues. But Bailey, we were talking a moment ago, you have some involvement with Wekiva sports beyond broadcast production. I understand you are a manager on a couple of the teams.
Yeah. I manage the girls basketball team and lacrosse.
So if you manage the girls basketball team, did you make the trip to Lakeland with them earlier this year?
No, I wish.
But certainly Coach Butts and his organization are one of Wekiva's proudest gems. They are 3-time consecutive state champion and or runner-up as we get a called strike to open up this at-bat. So state runner-up the last 2 years, state champion the season prior to that, and they also have another champion and runner-up status from several years ago. And then the lacrosse program under the helm of Alexander Taj Moody as we get a called strike here to bring up a 1-2 count. Now, lacrosse I've always found is one of those sports where, unlike most other sports, the boys and the girls versions are dramatically different.
Oh, yeah.
Basketball, soccer, volleyball, tennis.
Softball, baseball.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, even softball and baseball. Softball and baseball are a little different in terms of the field dimensions and the physics, but you can easily identify that it's the same sport. This should be an unassisted out at third, or excuse me, a 6-3 out, and it is. But that will send home Connor Ross. Connor Ross puts the Mustangs on the board as the fielder's choice is made at third base. It puts 2 away for the Mustangs. And with runners at 1 and 2.
Jeez. I don't know.
Now at the plate for Wekiva, they return to the top of the card with center fielder number 1, C.J. Goodwin. as we continue to try to hold our ground here amid sustained winds of about 18 miles an hour with gusts well into the 20s. This could be a harbinger of a cold front coming in tomorrow, so we're going to see how that impacts potentially softball senior day, which is coming up tomorrow at 4:30. Now, Bailey, are you scheduled to come back and join us again tomorrow?
Maybe, if I can.
So, yeah, tomorrow is going to be a very busy day, assuming the weather doesn't interfere with it.
It's supposed to rain all day.
Well, that's what I hear. Nolan Mareth records the strikeout, and that takes us to the end of the second inning. In that half inning, the Mustangs scoring 1 run on 1 hit with no Warrior errors, leaving 2 on base, and Wekiva on the board 1-0 at the end of 2 innings. We'll be right back. As we enter the top of the third inning, the Warriors begin in the 8th position of their lineup with play is made. Meanwhile, we have a 2-0 count at the plate. That one's chopped into the backstop, and just like that, A.J. Cullen has battled his way back to a full count. And to whom do I have the honor of speaking now?
Cassidy Palmer.
Cassidy Palmer. Oh, of course. I see. I don't recognize anybody when they're out of uniform and wearing masks. That one is headed into center field. Looks catchable, and it is. Play is made in to baseman number 8, Jacob Delano. So, Cassidy, I assume that you have some level of expertise in baseball and softball.
Yes, of course.
I would hope so. And tell us, what position do you play?
I am a pitcher, but I no longer play for the high school.
Okay, you're just here to join me for the broadcast. Well, I appreciate it.
I think I know a little bit more about baseball than Bailey does.
Okay, well, that's fair. So have you watched any of the broadcasts of our baseball or softball games?
Yes, of course. Anytime I can't come in person, I watch them basically every time.
Well, we certainly appreciate that. This one is low and outside for ball 3. Bandana. So Cassidy is a pitcher. What changes about your strategy based on the count as we got to walk here?
Depending on what the count is, you know, if it's 2-0 or I'm ahead in the count, I usually throw a changeup to throw them off a bit. Or if I'm behind in the count, I try to throw something that's very reliable so that I can get something on the board.
Next to the plate for the Warriors, shortstop number 3, Titan Kamaka. We got a called strike at the plate and a good throw over to second, but the throw is beaten and we have a stolen base. This one high, drops at the end and lands a little outside. So we end up with a 1-1 count, and we're going to pause for a quick timeout here from the Warriors. And again, we apologize if the broadcast is not perfect today. Our Wi-Fi is kind of going in and out here at the ballpark, so we are doing the best we can, switching networks, tweaking settings. We've reset the router once. We've opened one of the doors so that the Wi-Fi is not going through a metal gate. So we're doing everything we can to try to keep the stream solid here. But unfortunately, we are at the mercy of our internet access. And if you are familiar with the layout of the campus here at Wekiva, you know that we are at just about the most extreme point of the Wekiva campus. If you go any farther, you're in the swamp between Wekiva and the concrete factory. So we are, again, at the mercy of the Wi-Fi here, but it looks like, according to our broadcasting metrics on this side, it looks like it is back to being stable for the moment. So, again, thanks for your patience. And hopefully tomorrow we'll be playing it all. So, Cassidy, have you read the weather report for tomorrow?
I believe it's supposed to be raining for most of the day. I think in the afternoon it was supposed to taper off a bit, but then it comes back again at dismissal time around 2 o'clock.
Yeah, that's what I'm afraid of. So we're going to watch the weather report carefully. Of course, if you are subscribed to our YouTube channel or to our website or Twitter feeds, you know that tomorrow is senior day for Wekiva softball. Baseball already did theirs at the beginning of last week. But 4:30 tomorrow is supposed to be senior day festivities. Then at 5 o'clock, the softball game is supposed to start with first pitch. Then at 6 o'clock, the baseball game starts. So we're going to be doing that crazy thing that we do. This one is headed out of play. So we're going to be doing that crazy thing that we do where we try to broadcast 2 games at once, and we put a split screen up and have a couple of cameras on softball and a couple of cameras on baseball, and I try to keep it straight. We also have Dr. Baptiste scheduled to join us tomorrow for a special interview as we get ready to wrap up the season. And here we have Titan Kamaka walks to first. That puts runners at 1 and 2 for designated hitter number 2, Reef. So, Cassidy, how long have you been involved in the sport of softball?
About since I was 5, so very young.
And, you know, I find that is, and you can tell me if I'm wrong here, but anecdotally, I find that is a more common story for pitchers because you kind of have to be. It takes a while to build up the muscle memory to be able to pitch with any degree of consistency. I've always said, because if you're familiar with, you know, my connection to Wekiva, my wife is the chorus director here, so she's a professional, but I consider myself an amateur enthusiast musician. And I've always said that baseball and softball are the double reed instruments of the sports world, just in the sense that they have a somewhat high barrier to entry just to be able to play the game competently. Other sports, you can go out there, and even if you don't have, you know, a massive amount of practice time put in, you can at least play the sport at a basic level. as that one is out of play over the fence. 3-run home run scored for the Warriors by Ricky Reef. And that will give the Warriors the lead 3-1 and put them on the board. Next at the plate for West Orange, second baseman number 7, Max Mccluskey. Well, I'm glad I didn't park behind the baseball field today. And that, I mean, certainly it was a brilliant hit. There's no taking that away from him. But that may have gotten a little assist from the wind, which has been hovering right around the 18-mile-an-hour mark since we've been here today. That one's going to drop as well, not quite as far as the last one went. And in spite of not being handled well by the Wekiva defense, no extra base has come of it. Max Mccleskey, it's a double into center field. He's safe at second. Next at the plate for West Orange, right fielder, number 14, TJ Nickazy. That one is going straight to second base, and the double play wouldn't even matter because there were already 2 outs on the board. So the line out is recorded by Connor Ross, and that takes us to the middle of the 3rd inning. In that half inning, the Warriors score 3 runs on 3 hits with no Mustang errors, all 3 runs on the homer coming in. And that will take us to a 3-1 lead for the Warriors at the end of 2.5 innings. We'll be right back. As we enter the bottom of the 3rd inning, the Mustangs will begin in the second position of their lineup with designated hitter number 21, Christian Vasquez. Welcome back to Mustang Field. It has been overall a good day for the Mustangs, save for that home run. And, of course, home runs can change things in a hurry. Ricky Reef picking up the 3-run homer in the last half inning, and I could be wrong, but I think that's the first home run I have seen at either ballpark here at Wekiva this season. So nothing like waiting until the second to last home game to do it. Here comes a grounder to short, and that's a good throw. Play is made on the throw from Titan Kamaka to Justin Frias for the 6-3 ground out. 1 away for the Mustangs. Next at the plate for Wekiva, shortstop number 16, Malachi Hepburn. So, Cassidy, to continue our conversation from the last half inning, like I said, I've always considered baseball and softball to be kind of the double read instrument of the sports world in the sense that it takes a fair amount of practice and muscle memory just to get to the point where you have basic competence to play the sport at its most essential level. I mean, you have to throw the ball 60 feet into a box that is, not more than 6 square feet. And that's not something that you can do without a lot of work.
Yes, definitely. I think I started playing at 5 and started pitching when I was 7 or 8. So I've been pitching for almost a decade now.
Let's turn on my microphone. Malachi Hepburn picks up a single into center field. He's safe at first. Next at the plate for the Mustangs, left fielder number 15, Jackson Zapata. But yeah, the reason that I compare that to double reed instruments is that in the music world they're much the same, that you'll spend 6 months practicing an oboe and have no sound come out of it at all. And then you'll spend another 6 months with it sounding like a wounded duck. And then maybe finally you'll be able to play actual notes, as opposed to like what I like to play as drums, because to be sure there's still a lot of skill involved in playing the drums, but at the end of the day you take the stick, you hit the thing, it makes the sound. Even on your first day. So there's a little bit of early satisfaction when you're getting into that you don't get when you do something that requires a little bit more effort just to even get started. We'll get the fly catch made at second base. We're going to try for a steal here, and it's unsuccessful. Hepburn is caught stealing at second base, and that will immediately take us to the end of the third inning. So the Mustangs score no runs on 1 hit with no Warrior errors, leaving none on base, and the score remains 3-1 Warriors at the end of 3 innings. We'll be right back. Welcome back to Mustang Field. As we enter the top of the 4th inning, the Warriors start out with number 6, AJ Goitia. So that's a new entry into the lineup. And we'll get a called strike, so he opens with an 0-2 count. Interesting play here by West Orange, as they've had a lot of rotation in their personnel, even in the first 3 or 4 innings here. So this is a new entry into the batting lineup as we get a foul ball that will keep the count at 0-2. We also had a pitching change after just 1 inning, as Nolan Maroth has been pitching since the 2nd inning for West Orange. They started out with Evan King. Bandana, of course, the pitcher for the Mustangs. And Cassidy, I know you have played softball for a while, and softball generally does not have pitch count limitations because, of course, softball uses a fundamentally different pitching motion that does not, I mean, not that it doesn't have any repetitive stress injury risks, but they are different than what you have for baseball.
Yes, for sure.
The FHSAA introduced pitch count limitations, if it was 2 years ago, I think, or maybe it was last year. But previously there had not been pitch count limitations imposed on high school baseball in Florida, and now there are. And so that changes the strategy for coaches in some cases, that even if your pitcher is having a great game and does not yet appear to be worn out, you may go to the bullpen anyway, because the more pitches you throw, the longer you're required to rest between games, and you may not be able to participate in an upcoming game in the same week where you may be needed against a strong opponent. And so it's now become far less common than it was prior to the change, as we get a hit batsman here. And Godia will advance to first base. Next at the plate for West Orange, third baseman, number 1, Justin Frias. So what I started to say is it has become far less common than it used to be to see pitchers throw a complete game. Now, even if they are otherwise doing well, you typically see pitchers will last not more than 5 or 6 innings in baseball. Softball, I find that to be less true. And Cassidy, you would have better experience than I would with this, as we get Corey Chamberlain coming in at first as a courtesy runner. But generally, first of all, softball does not have pitch count limitations. And second of all, broadly speaking, softball tends not to have particularly deep bullpens when it comes to pitching. It's uncommon for you to see more than 2 or 3 girls on a team who are skilled pitchers.
Yes, for sure. I know our team here at Wekiva, when I played my freshman year, did not have too many pitchers at all, so it was a little hard sometimes on the pitchers, but I believe the pitch count limit is important, especially for baseball. Like you said, they have the way of the arm movement and stuff can be super irritating and possibly cause injury if they're not careful. But in my opinion, if softball were to have the same pitch count limits, I think it would be beneficial, because a lot of times the girls are pressured and stuff, and it does end up to injuries, especially for those playing in college.
Yeah, and certainly, you know, college is a much more elite level of play, and I know that it's a controversial topic. It's a difficult topic because obviously health and safety of players is paramount, as we get a grounder here to short. Can't get to second in time thanks to a healthy leadoff. The play is made at first on the 6-3 ground out. Throw there made. Excuse me, the second baseman got in there. In any case, it puts one away for the Warriors. Next to the plate for West Orange, another entry into the lineup, number 17, Henderson. So more personnel shakeups happening here on West Orange side, just to keep us guessing. Now, of course, another difference that enabled that play that you just saw there, Cassidy, is that in baseball, of course, leadoffs are a significant part of the game, and that's facilitated by the fact that the diamond is larger in baseball than it is in softball. Softball has the rule that you cannot take both feet off the bag until the pitch has left the pitcher's hand. So you get some degree of ability to jump the gun on the batting, but not as much as they do in baseball. And that really changes the strategy.
Yes, for sure. In baseball, they are able to leave the bag at any time before the pitcher throws the ball, and it allows them to get ahead and even possibly get an out easily if the pitcher fires back to them to get the tag. Um, there was a bunt hit to the pitcher, and he threw it and got him out.
Play is made at first, and that puts 2 away for the Warriors. Next at the plate for West Orange, number 31, Max Edelman. So again, more personnel changes happening here, as I think 3 out of the last 4 batters have been people who are not in the starting lineup for West Orange. So that will certainly keep the Mustangs on their toes, and frankly keep me on my toes as an announcer. I have a tendency to rely on shortcuts that I can take as an announcer just by looking at the position codes on the lineup sheet, that I just trust that I know who's at shorts, because a lot of times, like you look at the Mustang uniforms, Wekiva doesn't even have jersey numbers on the front of their uniform, so unless they turn around, I have to squint to see who they are. And the West Orange players, they do have numbers on the front of their uniforms, but obviously I don't know them at all except to look at the roster. And so as an announcer, I kind of cheat. And I just know based on where they are in the field and what the lineup card says, that's who must be at that position. However, when you change out 2/3 of your lineup in the 4th inning, then I can't go by that anymore. That is fair and fumbled by the Mustangs. That's one of those that stings a little when you push the error button on the scoreboard, because that was a tough play to make under any circumstances, especially with the wind blowing as fast as it is. That wasn't even really Simon's play to make. I don't know, Cassidy, what would you award a hit or an error for that?
I think an error on the Mustangs' part, because they all came together and nobody was really talking. Greg over there in right field, he put on the wheels and was able to get there in time, but I think was a little confused due to nobody talking or calling the ball.
Fair enough. Yeah, that was right at the first baseline. It was very nearly foul. Swing and a miss, puts up strike 1 here at the plate. And this is number 8. So that now we are back at the top of the lineup. This is Jacob Delano, the first baseman. And we get a called strike. As Neil likes to say, stood there like the house on the side of the road.
For sure. Usually the first batter is very consistent and fast so that they can put somebody up there on base in order to set the tone for the rest of the lineup.
And that one is going to drop just out of range of first base, kind of in no man's land there. Mustangs trying to make a play at the plate, just can't get there in time. Jacob Delano picks up an RBI single line drive into right field. And that will score for the Warriors. Next at the plate, shortstop number 3, Titan Kamaka.
Number 3.
So that puts the Warriors up 4-1 now here in the top of the 4th inning. And we get a called strike, courtesy of Bandana. That one's going up. Should be an easy fly catch, and it is. Demir Simon makes the fly catch at first, and that takes us to the middle of the 4th inning. In that half inning, West Orange scores 1 run on 2 hits with 1 Mustang error, leaving 1 Warrior on base, and the score stands 4-1 now at the end of 3.5 innings. We'll be right back. And a scoring correction, 2 runs came in that half inning. 5-1 the score at the end of 3.5. As we enter the bottom of the 4th inning, the Mustangs begin in the 9th position of their lineup with right fielder number 14, Greg Jones. So now the Mustangs have some ground to make up, in spite of the fact that if you take 2 hits off the board, Wekiva is actually in pretty good shape. You take 2 hits off the board and Wekiva's leading 1-0.
Yes, and in fact that was Connor, who is the shortstop, who just hit the fly.
Yes, you're right, I started in the wrong place on the lineup. Thank you. Connor Ross, correction, was the starting batter for the Mustangs in the 5th position of the lineup, and he flies out to first, 1 away. Next at the plate for Wekiva, first baseman number 23, Demir Simon. Yeah, this is one of those things, I've always believed that it ought to be mandatory that uniforms have numbers on both sides. Because every time we get a lefty in there, I'm trying to see if I can recognize them through their helmet. Simon tips his first pitch away to the backstop, bringing up an 0-1 count. Threading the third base line, and it is ruled fair, it looks. Nobody's saying otherwise. Demir Simon sends one right over third base and picks up the single as he hits safe at first. Next at the plate for the Mustangs, catcher number 2, Josiah McCoy. First pitch is in. It's a little high, but a nice chop there from McCoy. A little bit low and a little bit late, so that'll swing for strike 1. Thought hard about that one, but ultimately was not tempted. High and outside for a 1-1 count. And a called strike there. That one fell a little bit at the end, but stayed just enough inside to make the umpire happy. And another swing and a miss. Meroth records the swinging strikeout, 1 away for the Mustangs. Third baseman number 8, Janel Sanchez. First pitch is high for ball 1. Nice cut there on the second pitch. Just a little bit low. And that bounces into the backstop. So again, we've been told that today does not have rain in the forecast. course, we have been lied to before.
For sure, it's Florida. You never know what could happen.
Yeah, anything can happen. It certainly has that stormy incoming cold front feel to the air. It's very gusty here at Mustang Field. This is the second game we've had this season on the baseball field that has had really strong wind gusts, although the last time they were coming the other direction. So we get a called strike there, brings up a 22 count. So a smart move there by Sanchez, and Cassidy as a batter, you can speak to this a little bit. Behind in the count there, or at least tied in the count, he would have had to swing at anything close, but made the decision there that that was too high, and he was right. That is going to be an uncaught third strike, and he's not paying attention. He might have been able to outrun that one, but it does not matter. The play is made at first after the uncaught third strike, and Nolan Mareth records the strikeout to take us to the end of the fourth inning. In that half inning, the Mustangs scoring no runs on one hit with no Warrior errors, leaving one on base, and the score stands 5-1 at the end of 4 innings. We'll be right back. Welcome back to Mustang Field. As we enter the top of the 5th inning, the Warriors will start with number 2, Ricky Reef, the designated hitter, in the 3rd position of the lineup. Reef is, of course, the owner of the home run, the 3-run home run. And that's really, Cassidy, one of the beautiful things about baseball and softball respectively, that they're untimed sports, and they are sports that really, you can be up or down by a lot and you can face long odds, but there's really no such thing as being out of the game, because you see things like that happen. I mean, all 5 of those runs you can really trace back to 2 hits. That's really all it took to give West Orange a 5-1 lead over the Mustangs. Everything else has gone reasonably well for Wekiva today. Bandana's having a decent day on the mound, although not necessarily with this at-bat. Fumbled there at first base, but recovered as Demir Simon makes the unassisted out at first. 1 away for the Warriors. Next at the plate for West Orange, second baseman, number 7, Mccleskey. So Wekiva dispenses with perhaps the most dangerous batter of the West Orange lineup. Had a moment of panic there from Simon, but he was able to recover. And there, an interesting play, as Mccleskey thought it was going to be so far inside it was going to hit him, tried to duck out of the way, and inadvertently struck it with his bat. So that'll officially be a foul ball and strike 1. That's going up. Headed toward third. And near miscommunication there, but Mustangs get away with one there. Janel Sanchez makes the fly catch at third base. Two away for the Warriors. Next at the plate for West Orange, number 24, Chamberlain. So here's where we get into the portion of the lineup that has been adjusted. That one is going to another place that I often park my car. Second pitch brings up an 0-2 count. Oh, crowd thought that one looked good. The umpire didn't. Calling it outside. And that is an uncaught third strike opportunity to make the play, and they do. Play is made from Josiah McCoy to Demir Simon at first, and that takes us on the strikeout to the middle of the fifth inning. In that half inning, the Warriors going 3 up and 3 down. No runs, no hits, no errors, and none left on base, and the score remains 5-1 at the middle of the fifth inning. All right, Cassidy, you going to join me for this?
What is it?
It's the fifth inning stretch.
Oh, goodness. I think you've got that one.
Ladies and gentlemen, we've reached the middle of the fifth inning, and that can only mean one thing. It's time for the fifth inning stretch, so stand up, try not to get blown over, and join us now for Take Me Out to the Ball Game. Take me out to the ball game, take me out to the crowd. Buy me some peanuts and Cracker Jack. I don't care if I never get back, for it's root for the Mustangs. If they don't win, it's a shame, for it's 1, 2, 3 strikes, you're out at the old ball game. We'll be right back. Welcome back to Mustang Field. Now pitching for the Warriors, number 22, Kai Newholt. And the Mustangs will begin in the ninth position of their lineup with right fielder number 14, Greg Jones. So number 22, Newholt, is pitching. Who was actually not on their roster.
I think he's got some speed to him. wow, with 2 on him, he watched it go by, didn't even swing.
Jones is caught looking by Newt, who records the strikeout. 1 away for the Mustangs. Next up, Wekiva returns to the top of the card with center fielder number 1, C.J. Goodwin. So that's an interesting choice there, Cassidy. I mean, you know as well as anybody does that when you're behind 0-2 on the count that you kind of swing at anything close. It's pretty rare to see somebody with an 0-2 count get called for looking.
For sure. I think the change of pitcher kind of threw them off. I think he's throwing a little bit faster than the last one was. So he might have thought that it wasn't coming in, but it could have dropped a little bit and fell right in the strike zone.
That's another thing that I find is kind of interesting about the dynamics between baseball and softball. Baseball, because the pitching is overhand, has different types of pitches that you see, whereas in softball I've heard coaches coach their batters saying it's never going to get any higher, which I think is true because of the underhanded pitching style of softball. Once it reaches the crest of its arc as it comes toward the plate, it's not going to rise.
I believe that's true, unless you have a pitcher that has a really good rise ball, of course, but in high school, it's not that common.
Right. But yeah, with the overhand pitching style, certainly like when you think about curveballs and the like, that's something that looks a lot different with an overhand throwing style than with the softball pitch.
For sure. Now CJ does have 2 on him, so he has to be careful. Ooh.
And he chops at a low one. Newt records the swinging strikeout to put 2 away for the Mustangs. Next at the plate for Wekiva, designated hitter number 21, Christian Vasquez. And we'll start with ball 1. Nice cut, just not quite accurate. Called strike brings up a 1-2 count. I should also point out, if you're not aware, obviously we always are happy to have you for the live stream, but if you ever find yourself in a position where you're just not able to watch a live stream and you just want to check in on the score, we have a service that's at wekivamustangs.com/scoreboard. We also link to that as another one, caught looking. Newt retires 3 consecutive batters with strikeouts. As the Mustangs go 3 up and 3 down, no runs, no hits, no errors, none left on base, and the score remains 5-1 at the end of 5 innings. Ladies and gentlemen, we want to remind you that we have not only the live stream, which of course we always welcome our fans who are not able to join us in person to tune into, but if you are in a position where you're not able to watch the live stream and you just want to check in on the score, we also provide a service at wekivamustangs.com/scoreboard. Again, it's wekivamustangs.com/scoreboard, or there is a little scoreboard icon next to a game on the schedule if it happens to be live at the moment. If you click on that, it will link you to a live feed of the scoreboard. In fact, it will link you to a live feed of a much better scoreboard than the one we actually have in the ballpark. We've put the most expensive version of the scoreboard, since it's free to put anything online, that has the full line score with all the innings and runs and hits and who's at bat and everything else. So we have that available at WekivaMustangs.com, and it will automatically adjust to whatever sport we are currently hosting. So you'll see a lacrosse scoreboard come up there sometimes, a football scoreboard, a volleyball or a basketball scoreboard, or a baseball scoreboard. It automatically adjusts to whatever sport we're playing, and it connects live to our scoreboards here on campus. So if you are ever not able to be here in person, and either the live stream isn't available or you're not in a position to watch it, and you just want to tune in real quick and catch what the score is, check on the scoreboard, you can always do that at WekivaMustangs.com/scoreboard. As we enter the top of the 6th inning, the Warriors will start off with number 6, A.J. Goitia. So again, we are in that lower half of the lineup where we have a lot of substitutes on the roster who are not part of the original starting lineup. So Cassidy, from a player's perspective, do you do any preparation for the game, the specific game and the opponent that you're facing, beyond just the usual practice and warm-up? Like, for example, as we get a called strike here, I know in football and basketball and some other sports, it's very common to watch game film to learn what you can about specific players and the specific strategies they use, and then to adapt your strategy going into that game, as this should be a 6-3 ground out. No, it's not either. That goes into the dugout, into no man's land, so that's going to reward an extra base automatically. Jankowski comes in at second as a courtesy runner for Goitia. Next to the plate, number 1, Justin Frias. So before we were so rudely interrupted there by the Mustang error, I'll let you respond to the question I just asked. How do you prepare for a game that's specific to the opponent that you're facing and not just general, batting and fielding practice?
I think it depends on the player themselves. Not too often the whole team reviews tapes and stuff of the team, but definitely individuals on the team will take it upon them to watch anything if they can, if there is anything online, or look on Max Preps to see their record and who they've played, that, kind of compare our record to them.
And we'll get a wild pitch and an extra base coming up for Chamberlain there. I would imagine, Cassidy, specifically as a pitcher, that you may want to review, like, okay, who are my strongest hitters? Maybe that changes your decisions on what you're going to throw at them if you know what their style is, if you know what they swing at.
For sure, depending on where they are in the lineup. Like I said, the first batter is usually consistent and fast. The third and fourth are usually your power hitters, so they can be more the muscle of the team. It basically just depends on looking at their lineup, depending on see what you can do and what you can't do.
Swing and a miss for strike 2. Yeah, I know, and it's always been interesting to me as an announcer and an observer and a broadcaster, how the sports differ with that. Like, for example, as we get, this one is going to drop, and that's a hit. And it's an RBI while we're at it. Justin Frias picks up an RBI single that sends home 1 run. Next at the plate for West Orange, number 17, Henderson. So here we have another entry into the lineup. Came in a couple of innings ago. Looking at first, nothing there. And what I started to say a moment ago, that like, okay, with football, for example, it is just understood that everybody shares game film. Everybody sends, as a matter of fact, when you get to the playoffs, it's even mandatory. The state association requires it. You have to send your opponents your game film. You have to let them study it. And that's just the way it is. Basketball, that's not the case. Basketball, like coaches wheel and deal for game film. And if you can get it publicly online, if you can get it from broadcasts, great. If not, then they will trade each other game film. Sometimes going to other coaches that have played that opponent earlier in the season, and they'll try, and if they're friends or if they have a relationship, they'll try to get game film that way. Which has always just felt kind of odd to me, that like there's this black market for game film that only applies to certain sports. Not every sport even has that dynamic going for it. And baseball and softball, game film is not necessarily irrelevant, but doesn't have that deep relevance that it does in sports like football and basketball. And it's for that reason that our girls basketball coach requires me to black out our girls basketball games. Those are only available day of. And then starting the following day, once the game has been played, those are blacked out until the end of the following season. And that's because it would potentially put Wekiva at a competitive disadvantage. And he got him! Third time was the charm. The pickoff is made at first. One away for the Warriors. Well, persistence pays off for Bandana here.
That would be Wyatt.
No, excuse me, you're right. Wyatt Smythe. So a pitching change occurring here in the sixth inning. That's headed toward left field. We'll see if the Mustangs can get there. No, they cannot. Henderson records a single, dropping into left field. He's safe at first. Next at the plate, number 31, Max Edelman. And boy, the Warriors are getting kind of aggressive here. Aggressive with their leadoffs and aggressive with their steals. That could have gone the other way if the Mustangs had handled it a little bit more cleanly.
For sure, I think a little more speed coming from Zion behind the plate would have definitely put him there in enough time, but he was able to slide head first and get under that tag.
That one's headed to left field. That's going to drop, and that's going to be at least two bases. And it's going to be an RBI as well. Henderson comes home on the RBI double from Edelman. Next at the plate for West Orange, number 8, Jacob Delano, the first baseman, at the top of the lineup. So we have now finally made it back to the first position in the lineup. There's another pick attempt at second. Well, the Warriors are certainly going to make their laundry machines work for it. And like I said, the last couple of base runners for West Orange have demonstrated a fair amount of aggressiveness and willingness to take risk. It ended up not paying off for them on the pick at first. It ended up earning a stolen base here at second, and that actually put the runner in scoring position a moment ago as Henderson came home. So it's always interesting to me to see how different coaches, because of course the coaches are directing that strategy. To a certain extent, the player has to make a judgment call, but a lot of times they're following the coach's instructions, and it's always interesting to me to see how much risk they're willing to take, how big of a leadoff, how many steps are they willing to take. And then, of course, in a certain sense, you're also tempting the pitcher, because every one of those pick attempts is a potential error. That if that throw is not on the mark, then not only do you not get out, but maybe you get an opportunity for an extra base. And 4 straight balls. Jacob Delano walks to first. The Mustangs will pause here for a timeout. When we come back, next at the plate for West Orange will be shortstop number 3, Titan Kamaka. So, Cassidy, when we have these little pauses here, and we're assuming there's not going to be a pitching change because we just had a pitching change, but what is the coach, do you imagine, advising the team with a timeout like this?
Well, as a pitcher, I definitely know the pressure that can be put on the pitcher at the mound. Basically, a lot of coaches sometimes just call a timeout to give the pitcher a rest and get him out of that headspace of you're just pitching and pitching and pitching. It kind of allows you to sit back and think, okay, here, I need to get the ball to the glove and just get it done. Wyatt is a very consistent pitcher, and when he's in the right headspace, he's very good. And so I think coaches basically just trying to get him back in that headspace.
Yeah, I mean, there are really 2 reasons broadly that you call a timeout as a coach. That's better. We got a called strike there. One is to give your team strategic advice about what to do next, and the other is to just disrupt the flow of the game or change the momentum of the game. That one is headed toward the dugout, and it does indeed land out of play for strike 2. You see that happen often in other sports like basketball, where a team will go on a scoring run and they're kind of on fire, and the other coach will call a timeout. First of all, to change his team's strategic direction because things are not going their way, and the other thing is also just disrupt the momentum, to change the momentum of the game. And I think that's certainly what we saw there.
For sure, that's something that's very common in volleyball too, because if a server just keeps getting aces and aces or serving way too much and the other team's just getting in that bad headspace, another team will call the timeout, try to break that server's rally they have going, and hopefully be able to get the ball back in their possession.
Yeah, that almost reminds me of icing the kicker in football. Well, there's a hit. And it's looking like an RBI. Yep, can't get back in time. Oh, we have a squeeze play going on at third. Oh, and it's muffed by the Mustangs. Oh, and taking off for home. Boy, that's a gutsy move, and it pays off. Let's see, help me out here. Did I hit the button the right number of times there? Is it 9 or 10 now? Yes, 2 came in. I was not actually looking at the scoreboard as I pressed the button. It was 8 before? Okay, so that means it's 10 now. I hit the hits button instead of the run button. So, and that also has to be an error for Wekiva, unfortunately.
Yep. Sometimes I don't think they take the time and realize that they have time to make a good throw, and you kind of rush things, and then it ends up very badly.
Yeah, it's one of those things that if you try to be a hero and move the ball too quickly, that it can ultimately work against you. And so now it looks like we are going to have a pitching change.
Yes, I believe that is Ricardo on the mound.
Now on the mound for the Mustangs, number 9, Ricardo Reyes Muniz. And so we'll pause here for a timeout as Ricardo Reyes Muniz gets an opportunity to warm up, and the Mustangs will try to change direction. We'll be right back. All right, welcome back to live action. Again, we have one out on the board, and we're going to start with a hit batsman. That's not a great confidence builder for a new pitcher, but Reef advances to first. Next at the plate, second baseman number 7, Mccleskey.
It's Andre's mom, number 11. This is my boyfriend.
So Kamaka comes home there as, was that a balk? Is that what happened?
I'm not too sure on that one.
So now we have a runner at second, and Kamaka came home. So I was right the first time earlier. I had second guessed what buttons I'd hit on the scoreboard, and it was actually 9 runs before. So now with Kamaka coming home, that makes it 10, and now a runner in scoring position. And now Wekiva has to be careful here, because they have a runner in scoring position that would be the 11th run, and that could lead to a short game. Chopping at that one makes it a 1. Well, no, never mind. That did go fair. I thought it was going to go foul. Fortunately, Reyes Muniz was paying better attention to that than I was. And the throw is made to Simon for the 1-3 ground out. Next at the plate for the Warriors, number 24, Corey Chamberlain. Some contact made there, and it's going out of play behind the backstop for strike 1. So, of course, in high school baseball and softball, the rule that ends a game early is a 15-run differential in 4 innings or a 10-run differential in 5 or more. So Wekiva would at least like to see the 7th inning here, if not come back. That one's headed out of play as well.
I don't know what to do.
I think we managed to safely avoid any fans, although it was certainly close. Yeah, this is not the MLB. You don't get to take home foul balls as souvenirs. They expect those to be returned.
Yeah, we only have a limited number of those.
Yeah, it gets expensive after a while.
For sure.
That's the other thing that I know drives everybody crazy, because the baseball and softball fields here at Wekiva are about 40 feet apart from each other. And so when we do have baseball and softball games going on at the same time, besides the difficulty broadcasting that, we also occasionally have to stop play when one field ends up hitting foul balls into the other one. That's going up. Should be an F6, and it is. Play is made at shortstop by Malachi Hepburn, and that will take us to the middle of the 6th inning. In that half inning, the Warriors scoring 5 runs to take them to a total of 7 hits on the day after one Mustang error in that half inning, and it takes us to a 10-1 ball game at the end of 5.5 innings. Excuse me, at the end of 6 innings. We'll be back in a moment. Ladies and gentlemen, we invite you to join us tomorrow, weather permitting. We have Senior Day for softball starting at 4:30, and then first pitch at 5 o'clock. Then baseball will start their own game at 6 o'clock against Jones. That'll be the last home game of the year for both teams. So come out early. If you were already planning on coming out for baseball at 6, come out a little bit earlier and cheer on the class of 2021 for the softball team. However, we are aware that there is some inclement weather in the forecast for tomorrow, so make sure that you are keeping an eye on our social media channels. We are at Wekiva Sports on Twitter and Facebook, and if anything changes about tomorrow's schedule, we will post it there first. Again, it's at Wekiva Sports on Facebook and Twitter. As we enter the bottom of the 6th inning, the Mustangs will begin in the 3rd position of their lineup with shortstop number 16, Malachi Hepburn. And we'll start things off with a called strike. This is again number 22. Which is a new entry into the lineup for West Orange. That's Newtholt on the pitcher's mound there. And he has been excellent so far for the Warriors. He recorded all strikeouts in the bottom of the fifth. 3 up and 3 down. And here he's picked up 2 strikes right away on Hepburn. Third pitch. This one is going to go straight back to Newholt. Play is made at first on the 1-3 ground out. The throw there from Newholt over to first. 1 away for the Mustangs. Next at the plate for Wekiva, left fielder number 15, Jackson Zapata. So by stranding a runner on base in the previous half inning, Wekiva has at least guaranteed that this will be a regulation length ball game. So we are going to play all of 7 innings no matter what. But Wekiva has a lot of ground to make up and only 5 more outs to do it. That's headed toward third. Should be a 5-3. And it is. The play is made from Justin Frias to Jacob Delano for the 5-3 ground out. 2 away for the Mustangs. Next at the plate for Wekiva, second baseman number 12, Connor Ross. Low and outside for ball 1. Second pitch. Catches the outside edge of the strike zone. Brings up a 1-1 count for Ross. Here comes Newholt. Pitch number 3 away. That one was low, but he chops at it anyway, and it's 1-2. And kind of a wild swing, and okay, it was an uncaught third strike. The umpire was a little bit coy about that. But nevertheless, the tag is made after the uncaught third strike, and that takes us to the end of the 6th inning. Mustangs going 3 up and 3 down. No runs, no hits, no errors, none left on base. And the score remains 10-1 at the end of 6 innings. We'll be right back. Welcome back to Mustang Field. As we enter the top of the 7th inning, the Warriors will begin with number 6, A.J. Goitia. So the Warriors trying to cement their lead here. They are up 10-1 going into the 7th inning, and Wekiva has a ton of ground to make up in 3 outs. But again, at a minimum, Wekiva managed to hold it together just enough in the top of the 6th inning to avoid the mercy rule. And we'll start with a high ball 1. And it seems like West Orange, for their part, kind of an unusual personnel strategy for them. They have changed out, I think, probably 4 of the batters in their lineup. And they've also changed pitchers twice, and it seems like every time they change pitchers, they get better. That one is headed into left field, and it drops. Goitia singles into left field. He's safe at first. Next at the plate for West Orange, third baseman number 1, Justin Frias. So we are now in the 7th position of the lineup for the Warriors. And yeah, it was interesting that the first pitcher for West Orange only lasted for 1 inning and really struggled. That was Evan King. Then they went to Noah Marath, who did pretty good for them for a few innings. And now these last 2, oh, that one was not in the same zip code as the strike zone. And McCoy did not really have a sporting chance at that. And they are going to say that the umpire does indeed say that Frias went for that one. So it brings up a 1-1 count. But yeah, since we've changed pitchers in the 5th inning, West Orange has thrown nothing but strikes. I'm trying to think if there's been a single ball thrown in the last 2 bottom half innings. It's been 3 strikeouts and a couple of ground outs. And Wekiva's gone 3 up and 3 down in both. And I think we have a balk called here. So that's going to advance the runner to third. Nice curve there. Drops it right into the strike zone and picks up a 1-2 count. That one started high, and it stayed a little too high. 2-2 coming up now.
Ooh.
Headed to left. Oh, and dropped in left field by Zapata. That'll score a run.
A double for number 1.
Safe at second. Next at the plate, number 17, Z. Henderson. So a tough day at the office here for Reyes Muniz. First pitch away, and that one is low and outside for ball 1. 3 balls at the plate. 4th pitch away, and it's in the dirt, and that's going to be a wild pitch, extra base. Warriors make the first conservative decision they've made all game by holding up the runner at third. That's Frias. Henderson walks to first. Frias advances to third, and we'll pause for a Mustang timeout. And we're going to have a pitching change. Now at the plate for Wekiva, number 11, now on the mound for Wekiva, number 11, Andre Moya.
He's not a pitcher. He's pitching, but he's not a pitcher. No, he's pitching.
Now at the plate for West Orange, number 31, Max Edelman. And he opens with a ball. So we now have Andre Moya on the mound. Cassidy, you know something about him?
Yes, that is my boyfriend.
All right, well, you're live on the broadcast. Anything you want to say to him that he can when he watches later?
Hey!
Swing and a miss. Brings up a 1-1 count. This is now, correct me if I'm wrong, this is the 4th pitcher for Wekiva today?
I do believe so.
As we started out with Bandana, then we had Smythe, then Reyes Muniz, and now Moya. That is going to drop. If it's fair or foul, it looks like it is going a foul of the third baseline. Winds have calmed down a little bit. Still breezy here at Mustang Field, but not as gusty as it was earlier in the day. You can see the tall grass there behind the back fence.
Oh, wow.
That's going about the same place as the last one did. That one drops fair, though, and it's going to be an RBI. An RBI single for Edelman. Next at the plate for West Orange, number 29, Diego Mira. So he makes his first appearance in the game. And it's going straight to the pitcher. Moya on the throw, and there's an easy out. Play made from Moya to Simon for the 1-3 ground out. One away for the Warriors. Next at the plate for West Orange, number 3, the shortstop, Titan Kamaka. So we're now in the second position of the lineup for West Orange. And that looked okay from here, but the umpire thought it was outside. So ball 1.
Oh, that one was in the dirt.
High and outside, and we're up to a 30 count now. Runners at second and third. So we've got 2 in scoring position. And a soft touch on the changeup there, and it's enough to bring up the strike. So a nice little bit of clever strategy there by Moya. That was a much slower pitch than what he's been throwing. I don't have a radar gun, but... And that one, unfortunately, he's not able to repeat the magic. So with a 4-1 count, Kamaka will walk to first, and that loads up the bases for designated hitter number 2, Ricky Reef. Now keep in mind, Reef is the owner of the home run from earlier today. Now, he doesn't have the wind at his back now like he did then, but he has certainly earned the DH spot on the roster. And that's going to drop, and it's going to score at least 1.
If not 2.
Yep, 2 are going to come home, and that's a 2 RBI double. As Reef now has a total of 5 runs to his credit at bat today. Next at the plate, second baseman number 7, Mccleskey. And if I've been counting correctly, that's also the 10th hit of the game for West Orange. First pitch of this at-bat is high. So now we have runners at 2 and 3, with 2 coming home on the last at-bat. Two balls into this point. With 1 out on the board, Moya is just looking to get out of this half inning and let the Mustangs see how much damage they can do in the bottom of the 7th. That one falls into the strike zone. Nice little curve there. Good cut. That's headed toward no man's land, and it drops. This is going to score at least 2. Mccleskey goes deep into left center field for 2 RBIs and a double. Next to the plate for West Orange, number 24, Corey Chamberlain. And we'll start with a high ball. So this has been, at least anecdotally for me, I haven't actually pulled the statistics on this, but it seems like for both baseball and softball here at Wekiva, that Wekiva has always, at least for the last few years, has fielded teams that really kind of struggle with stamina. Because if you look at the line score Wekiva has a tendency to do all right through about 3 or 4 innings. And I always feel like our win-loss record would be about twice as good as it is if high school baseball games were only 3 or 4 innings long.
I agree.
That's headed toward the first base foul territory, and it does hit the fence to go out of play and bring up a 3-1 count. Again, still only 1 out on the board. And a high ball will earn the walk. And as we pause here for a timeout, Corey Chamberlain walks to first. Next at the plate will be number 6, A.J. Goitia.
It also looks like they're putting number 10, Ian, in to pitch.
Now on the mound for Wekiva, number 10, Ian Rosado. So we'll take a quick break and come right back. Once again, next up will be number 6, A.J. Goitia. And that one's going to drop fair. Opportunity to make the play at first, and he does. Rosado on the throw to Demir Simon. 2 away now. Although that does advance the runners 1 base each. So runners at 2 and 3 now. Next at the plate for West Orange, third baseman, number 1, Justin Frias. One of the last remaining original batters in the lineup. And it nicks him. Frias advances to first. That will load up the bases. And next up will be number 17, Z. Henderson. I'm hearing the fans call him Zach. So on the roster it only says Z, but we'll go with Zach.
So bases are now loaded. This could go good for the Mustangs and get the third out, or could go bad. The ball's going up.
Oh, yeah, well, there's the bad. And that's going to drop in no man's land in left field. Henderson with an RBI single down the third baseline, and that will score one. Next at the plate for West Orange, number 31, Max Edelman. So to elaborate on what you were just saying, loaded bases are a double-edged sword. On the one hand, it gives you a force out at any base. On the other hand, something like this could happen. So Chamberlain scores on the wild pitch. So yeah, bases loaded can be great. Now, of course, the Mustangs don't need a double play at this point because they already have 2 outs, but it does open up double play opportunities because of the multitude of force out situations you have at your disposal. And that one gets away from third base. Cassidy, I'll let you make the call there. You want to score that as a double, or you want to score it as an E5?
That one's tricky. I think E5 would be smart because technically should have been a single, but there were some mistakes there made on the Mustangs, and the ball's up.
And probably could have taken a couple more steps back, but gets it anyway. Connor Ross makes the play on the fly catch at second. And that takes us to the middle of the 7th inning. And at this point, if you want to know the score, look at the scoreboard, because I'm not going to announce it. We'll be back. Once again, ladies and gentlemen, we invite you to join us tomorrow, weather permitting. If you were planning on coming to the Jones game or watching it online anyway, that starts at 6. But if you come a little earlier, at 4:30, we will be bidding farewell to the class of 2021 for softball. We had the senior night ceremony for baseball at the beginning of last week. Now it's time for the senior day ceremony for softball. That, again, is going to start at 4:30 tomorrow before their 5 o'clock first pitch. Now, all of that, of course, is weather permitting. We do have some inclement weather in the forecast for tomorrow. So make sure you keep an eye on our Twitter and Facebook feeds at Wekiva Sports, and we will make an announcement there first if we have any changes to the schedule as we see how the weather shapes up tomorrow. But we hope you will join us as we congratulate and wish well our seniors in the class of 2021. As we enter the bottom of the 7th inning, the Mustangs start in the 6th position of their lineup with first baseman number 23, Demir Simon. So a tough top of the 7th for Wekiva as the pitching roster kind of runs out of gas, and a couple of errors adding insult to injury there, and it ends up being a 10-run half inning. And so now what started out as a competitive game, save for the home run, I mean, really, if you take away the home run, I mean, the line score shows that it was a competitive ball game until the 5th.
And I'm not sure if that pitcher was up there in the last inning, but
oh yes, let's take a look here. Who do we have on the pitcher's
it's
mound?
Number 3.
Yes, that is new.
He seems to be throwing some heat up there and
Yes,
just
he
struck
does.
out Simon.
Now on the pitcher's mound is number 3, Titan Kamaka, and he opens up with a strikeout to put one away for the Mustangs. Next at the plate for Wekiva, catcher number 2, Josiah McCoy. High ball 1. A lot of heat on that one, but unfortunately for the Warriors, that goes into the dirt. Now, of course, there's nobody on to take advantage of the wild pitch. Another one thrown just the same way. So, of course, 3 pitches is not a particularly strong sample size to judge a pitcher, but certainly Kamaka here seems to have a huge amount of power and a huge amount of speed, but not a lot of control. Like, I don't have a radar gun, but just from looking at it, those pitches look faster than anything we've seen today.
For sure.
McCoy walks to first. Next at the plate for Wekiva, third baseman, number 8, Janel Sanchez, whose name I pronounced wrong for most of the season until someone finally corrected me at senior night. That's going out of play. Good chop there.
Was able to make some contact there, but it definitely was late. With this instance, with a fast pitcher like him, it's a lot easier and beneficial to move to the back of the box in order to have a little bit more time to decide whether you want to swing or not, and a good strategy to use. Number 14 was able to scoop that one up and get a good base hit, leaving
Greg
runners
Jones
on 1 and 2.
On the single. He's safe at first. And now the Mustangs return to the top of their lineup card with center fielder number 1, C.J. Goodwin. So finally a little bit of good news for Wekiva, which they could certainly use. Oh. Playing with fire there at second base. That's McCoy back there on second. Runners at 1 and 2 now for the Mustangs. Here comes the second pitch, and it's a bunt. That's a bold move with 2 outs.
CJ is the leadoff batter, so he is kind of fast. Sometimes he's able to pull it off and advance the runners and maybe get a base himself.
Well, he has to get a base himself because there's 2 outs. Advancing the runners doesn't help you if you don't get on.
Yep, that would end the ball game right there.
That's why I said the bunt is kind of a bold move there.
Ooh.
Check swing, and they're going to say he went. So now Kamaka is 1 strike away from ending the game. And in this case, Goodwin stays alive with the foul. And that's going well out of play. Yeah, that's probably going to make it to the football training room at least. Headed up, and it should be an infield fly, and it is. The fly catch is made. Scored there by Delano at first base, and that takes us to the end of the ball game. Warriors with 20 runs on 11 hits and 5 Mustang errors. Mustangs 1 run on 4 hits with no Warrior errors, and that takes us to the end of the ball game. Ladies and gentlemen, we thank you so much for coming out to support your Mustang and Warrior athletes. Thanks also to those of you who joined us online on YouTube or the NFHS network. We hope that if you are watching online that you will subscribe before you go. We also hope that you'll join us, whether it's here in person or virtually, for tomorrow's Senior Day festivities. Softball Senior Day starts at 4:30. We'll have first pitch at 5 o'clock, and then the baseball will add their game to the mix at 6 p.m. against Jones. That'll be the last home game of the year for both the baseball and the softball programs. Again, we are watching potential inclement weather tomorrow, so please make sure that you are following us on Facebook and Twitter at Wekiva Sports, not just for live updates about our home athletic events, but also for those weather updates. If anything changes about tomorrow's schedule, we will post it there first. Also, be sure to bookmark WekivaMustangs.com for all of your scores, schedules, and more. Those of you here in the ballpark, please drive carefully and arrive home safely. Those of you watching online, thanks for tuning in. We'll see you tomorrow. Good night from Mustang Field.